Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. I've done some preparation work here, and we need to win one game with Paladin, one game with Priest, one game with Shaman. I'm gonna probably get that done in this one recording, otherwise I'll get it done off screen. So I'm just gonna play wild. Paladin, Priest, and Shaman. Notice the Hearthstone deck tracker app has been updated and is showing a bug that's been pretty consistent ever since Whisper of the Old Gods. You can see right here there is a missing spot, just missing. There's a card in its mind. It's Cold Light Seer. It's just not rendering. Anywho, so Paladin, Wild, ranked play. Let's try to get ranked up to 18. Ideally, I'd want everything at 18. I don't even know if Standard is still at 18 though. I may have pushed my luck and fallen back down to 20 or 19. Speaking of pushing my luck, I'm now starting to really question whether I've had a small episode of burnout. It's hard to know clearly with 100% certainty what's happening, what is going on with me as far as motivation in the moment. I've now spent a week playing Human Resource Machine, which is really more of a programming emulator, I would say, than even I think you would call it what would you call it? Than a game. There's some major problems with calling it a game. In general, I will say, I don't think you can make programming fun. There's two reasons to program in my mind. Either you love it for the art of it, which it can be an art if done right, or you love it for the pay of it. Or you do it for the pay of it, maybe that you don't love it. But as far as actually, I'm gonna program just for fun. I don't think it's anything that could be like that. I really don't. I think let's see. This will be funny. I think it's much more, even if you were going to, let's say, just program for it. I think that's much more a learning experience when you do it just as a hobby. You're trying to teach yourself, you're trying to improve yourself in your skill. I don't think anybody would sit and say, I'm going to program the same thing I have programmed before. And so if or something exactly similar to what you've done before, that just doesn't make any sense. So, Human Resource Machine in particular is, I wouldn't say a particularly great introduction to programming. Anyways, it's got some problems. The programming language they introduced to you is missing some stuff. It's not an object-oriented language at all, which is great news for new learners. I personally never was fully indoctrinated into object-oriented programming, although I do mostly understand what it is and why it exists. It seems also to be, seems like that style of programming is for high-level programs such as an operating system versus a low-level program that's simply supposed to sort a list in alphabetical order. And in a lot of, if you were going to make a high-level program like an operating system, you might have an entire team working on just the code that sorts things into alphabetical orders. Certainly could be the case. It's not like JavaScript, which is good because JavaScript is really not like anything else, and well, I'm sure it's like something else, but it's a pain in the butt. feels different to any other set of programming language. It feels very much like a BASIC that's even missing functions that BASIC has. They seem to be running your code constantly because there's zero delay to its own fair part as far as when you hit the play button and it starts testing. No delay there, but it knows if your code works for the set of inputs it's giving, and it also knows if your code works for the set of, for at least a couple other sets of inputs. Now that very well may be that they just have a matrix in the program of different styles of inputs that would fail. So if, for instance, you're given 4 numbers and they're all positive and your code succeeds, but the second any negative number was in the inputs, it would fail. It probably has in its program in the back room a set of 4 numbers that has at least one negative and one positive. So it catches you a few times doing that, and it does an achievement for doing that. Which for me, that happened enough by itself. There was 3 programs in it that completely I failed to master. One program in it that I understood in general the concept of what they wanted, where you had to return all the prime factors of a number, which I kind of understand that, but I did never get a program to really run with it. Programming in general can often devolve into just hitting go, seeing what happens, changing one thing, hitting go, seeing what happens, changing one thing. It's like chiseling a statue or painting a painting for some artists. I mean, you paint one brush stroke, you step back, you look again. Not all artists do it that way. In fact, probably not even the majority of artists do it that way. You wouldn't know, but some do. And that's what programming can often devolve into. Also, since I'm not at the peak, not anywhere near the peak of my mind being in that mindset, frankly, I was on a few nights just getting sleepy and tired and phasing out, and so making dumb mistakes, not having a 100% grasp of what I was trying to do or what this one item does. The labeling system in it actually has a list of only 15 labels, which is way too few. If you're gonna allow a programmer to comment and label things, which you don't even get the ability to comment or label things at the beginning of the game, it becomes even less helpful. Let's see, we'll go with priest now, to then say, well, you only get 15. Let's see, where are we on? We're ranked 20 on wild, ranked 20 on standard. Interesting. It's full of jump commands and no comparison commands otherwise. So it's basically full of the concept of go-to statements, which I was trained never to use go-to statements. In fact, I still firmly agree with that go-to statements are the devil of programming and should never be used at all. But then there's no simple things. There's no add a number to another number. There's no way to define set numbers. You have to go through ridiculous loops to make a program work in some ways that no real programmer would ever have to deal with in any real programming language. You can't say whatever the input is, add 5 and output. Can't do that because 5 is just not a setting. So in a lot of ways, the criticism of the game is criticism of the programming language not being very robust, being limited for no real reason, which takes it away from being a good learning tool, because if kids or I wouldn't recommend kids play this at all. They would only get, I think, to the first 5, and then they would be probably so frustrated they would never get any further. Even at my point, even understanding programming, I didn't beat the whole game. Like I said, there was one puzzle I never completed myself, and it certainly was the right move, but an unduplicatable move to spend a week playing it and doing it myself before even recording the first episode. But it's totally undoable. I should have spent that week playing Shadows of Mordor. Now I'm a week potentially in jeopardy. I've gone a week closer to jeopardy as far as any content IDs that happen on Shadows of Mordor, which almost certainly are going to happen. We knew it was. I should have focused on that. I got into a weird situation where I had to upload it because it's such a big game. I had to upload all my videos and just try and keep...
How many fingers do you see?
Let's see. I'm gonna kill this guy and heal everybody, get everybody more powerful. Yeah, just waiting for things to upload. I'm to the MP4 file format. Maybe it's a little bit darker, it's hard to tell. Because in Hearthstone particularly, like if you get this background, the standard background for this one, which I think this is Pandaria, it's kind of bright, but if you get like some of the Cthulhu ones or some of the other ones, they're kind of dark. And let's see.
Does this hurt? Face the light.
I guess I have to kill this guy, don't I? I don't know. Let's end the turn. We'll leave it here and see what happens.
I have no time for
not
games.
certain about that. I will certainly want to do a test again because I definitely don't want to run into the same situation where I'm yet again recording even an hour of footage and then the audio's messed up on that game.
Does this hurt?
Has anything else happened? Not really. Doom is out now. People seem to say it's alright. I saw a little bit of footage of it and I did like the animation of just how when you would kill one of the demons, they would drop kind of holographic bullet looking things just coming out of them like a slot machine or something. It seemed like a pretty cool animation. I'm gonna lose quickly here. I gotta think things through. I gotta figure out a way to do 14 damage before my own character kills me. Guess this deserves a well played. I saw the Assassin's Creed trailer, first official trailer for the movie. Okay, looks alright. I think it suffers probably from the same concept of the game that is just ridiculous. That we don't particularly need the future stuff at all. I think in the movie series too, especially they were in a great position to say we'll just get rid of the future stuff and we'll do an alternate history timeline. I don't feel like the Animus or the other stuff going in the future or the end of the world stuff going in the future, I don't think any of that really adds anything much to to the story of the game, and I don't know if it's going to really add anything much to the movie. Also, it being a conspiracy and stuff seems a little weird too. Like having, what is the name of the company? Atlas? No, it's the Animus by Abstergo. Yeah, Abstergo. Yeah, having Abstergo or a company or a government like Abstergo have him force him into the machine probably is not as useful
The light
as
shall bring victory.
if it was him volunteering or him being a researcher and finding out something. I think the story turns into a little bit of a more interesting thing anyways if it were somebody created this device to go back into the genetic memory of their ancestors, which is still a stupid concept. They do it, and then the device, unbeknownst or unannounced, sends them through a Assassin's Creed style story, and so he's learning more and more about it, because you could play that mystery and that revelation throughout the whole movie and add quite a bit in doing that. Whereas, let's see, at the start of your turn, destroy 3 health to a damaged friendly character. Do I want to damage this guy? I don't think so. But all of the mystery that you could have of what is going on in my past is somewhat diminished when you have a company a company run by the Templars saying, "We want your memories. Something is important about your memories." That stops being.
In the light's name.
Right.
In the light's name.
What else? It's really bad. I have to admit, it is really bad about just not having anything to talk about. I question whether I should just put Hearthstone on hiatus, but I'd still end up playing it. I mean, I think I've gone as far and as extreme as I probably should to say, like, to say, well, I'm playing offline for most of it, and then I'm doing one 45-minute video. If I run out of videos, I'm just gonna not air anything that day, that time, that week, whatever. I suppose if it starts to look really bad, I might space them out a little bit, because that would be the smarter move to make.
Just a pinch of vigor.
Job done.
But yeah, there's not a bunch to talk about. Let's see, the NVIDIA 1080 and 1070. I've seen them and I've thought about them, and I'm of two minds of it. Still very uncertain. We haven't gotten any real reviews or anything on there. On one hand, I need a new video card. I don't want to do the SLI. So, in theory, if the 980 GTX went on sale and was cheap, that would be a decent thought to try to upgrade graphics a little bit so that we could continue to try and record every game on Ultra. One of the things about Shadow of Mordor too is it's just rendered at less than 1080p and then scaled up. Usually games don't tell you when they're doing that. Certainly other games do things like that, but That's fine, really. It's not great. It's not a native 1080p. That's what they mean by saying native 1080p is when the engine itself is rendering 1080 by 19 by 20 by 1080 pixels. Whereas in Shadows of Mordor's case, it was made for consoles more, so it runs at 720 and then it scales up. On top of that, in its own game engine, which is probably better than what my game engine or my recording engine of OBS is. One would hope that there was some slight improvements there, slight speed improvements, slight quality improvements. Maybe it's not the case. We'll go and squelch that one. I don't need to hear them say the same thing twice. But otherwise, Shadow Mordor is only about a year-old game, and it seems like it can run at Ultra. I suppose, in a lot of reasons, I have no reason to be surprised about that. I did get, with the purchase of my video card, the free Witcher 3, and Witcher 3 almost ran completely at Ultra settings until later on in the game when it started having trouble. There is also an argument, or at least a consideration needs to be made about Witcher 3. It's a series I made, didn't get any views. I spent a lot of time on it, and now we've had Hearthstone, the expansion, which I didn't get or ever play, and we've had Blood and Wine expansion announced. I can't really in my mind justify getting either one of those expansions or playing any more of it. I had a pretty fun time with it. It certainly had some long bits. There's the whole Skellige there. I kind of did 100% of what I felt like I wanted to do there.
In the light's name.
And I don't see a reason to go further. Yep. And that's kind of the weirdness of DLC. In general, if I'm buying new games, I'll probably just cover the new games. And then it would have to be a really standout DLC for me, or a really standout game for me to come back and ever cover an expansion. Whereas old games, I'm practically always trying to get all the DLC for it because I want to show the complete play of it with everything added, which is kind of the real final product of the game. It's, in a lot of ways, two separate things I'm doing. The first thing I'm doing is, when I'm playing a new game, is I'm giving a breaking news criticism and review of the game. Breaking news, this is how I feel about the game up to this point of playing. Or sometimes, in rare cases, I've played further than what I'm recording, and my opinion might be slightly affected by that. Whereas when I'm doing a retrospective game, which is a significant portion of the videos that I'm releasing right now, I'm showing here's what the finished product is in 2016 or whenever I air the video, or near that. Here's what it was after they fixed all the bugs, put out all the patches, added all the DLC. This is what you can expect as far as the quality of the sequel of this game, or of this game you can buy now and you get all of the DLC. So it's still a little bit off because you can certainly buy some games, not get the DLC, and have a different experience.
Face the light.
I wonder if that was the right move. I don't think it was, actually. I probably should have played this. So since I covered The Witcher 3 as a breaking news style thing, and The Witness and the Talos Principle. I haven't gotten the Road to Gehenna Talos Principle game either. It kind of makes sense and becomes apparent
Just a pinch of
what
liquor.
reasons for that.
Face the light.
That I'm too busy, and frankly, that's weird. So I do want to cover the Road to Gehenna, but it's not on sale really. It goes on sale for 60% off, and it's still $6, $7, $8. So I'm like, that's too much. With the Humble Bundle stuff, I'm starting to try and learn and try and fill out collections of old games. But I have gotten over the point. Thankfully, I've gotten over the point where I didn't have any games. Looking back on my first series, I mean, it's pretty bad.
Many options.
Just, I'm playing The Binding of Isaac and FTL and Hearthstone. Hearthstone being free, and the other two I already had. So
Too soon.
it's a small number that was played for like 3 or 4 months. Where now I want to play a game for a few days and then beat through it. I want to approach a time frame that's more realistic. Speaking of realistic, which this is going to be a slightly weird transition, I'll grant you that. Adam Sessler is apparently
A new recipe.
back to the video game reviewing in video format world again. Adam Sessler was the co-host
right
of
all
X-Play for many years on G4 before G4 got canceled. He then was hired to create Revision 3 games pretty much, and did almost an inhuman amount of work in both of those. And then by the time after that, he was just kind of burned out, and he's like, I'm tired. And seriously, there's no argument can be made that he wasn't overworked like crazy. He works himself out like crazy. So now he's a producer on the show instead of a on-screen or writer or executive producer, manager of Revision 3 games, and
Take your medicine.
he's entering it again. He's old, is the realistic things. I don't know. I hate to really see him just potentially overwork himself again. That's my fear, is he's just gonna overwork himself again, and that's a shame. I like his voice. I think in a lot of ways, I like both his voice in the sense that of how he reviewed things on X-Play, and in the sense of I like how he sounded in X-Play, and I think a lot of that probably had to do with some really good microphones and some really good tweaking of the microphones. If I could have hired anybody, I would certainly hire him and have him be involved in some way. Why he would work with such a nobody like me, I don't know, but it would be probably fun, and I think we could probably get along decently. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. You never know about those things until you start to deal with it. So I'm hoping he succeeds, but I'm afraid for him. Other games journalists they're really falling to the wayside left and right. Games journalism itself is in a lot of ways a younger man's game, and people burn out, they move on. Scandals sadly happen way too much, and all of a sudden somebody who could have been liked or was liked by everybody may now be hated by half their audience, driven half of them away.
I am Rafal, the
Certainly.
supreme archaeologist.
Things fall to pieces. The Escapist is a good example of that recently. They had a podcast, they did reviewed games, I kind of followed them, and all of that seems to have fallen to pieces and just like seems like they're running out of money quickly. Well, what can I do to protect myself here?
Well played.
If I kill Rafam at the start of your turn, set this minion's attack to 7. So, doesn't that mean at the end of this turn, it should go back to 0? Well, we've been playing a lot of priest here. Let's move on to the next character. I've run the rank all the way down to lowest rank. What was the third quest? And 2 different back buttons now. Let's see. Shaman. I played the Tavern Brawl, by the way. 10 victories. 10 victories. Just doing the 2-card Tavern Brawl things. I really like that concept. I feel like that should always exist. It feels also like something you could win with and get past the 50% barrier. Although, obviously everybody cannot win more than 50%. At best, everybody would win at 50%. And then it would probably just feel like a coin flip. This is the major problem I think I didn't realize with Hearthstone and any competitive online games is just, man, you're gonna lose, and that's no fun.
Powering up.
The one, like, I was thinking probably it was more like Borderlands, where you mostly played offline, or if you had somebody online, they're just gonna show up and help you, or at worst be a pain in the butt, and not. Let's see. This and then this, and I think I'm fine. I don't think I was really thinking along the lines of a game where people were going to be your competition. There's also specifically on Borderlands, they had a very interesting system if the 2 players wanted to actually be able to shoot each other. Otherwise, they were defaulted to friendly fire being off, and that certainly changed a lot of things. Let's see. What else? It's just weird. It's been a weird week. I can't use the excuse that I'm recovering. Insomnia issues have come right back to the forefront, as they seem to consistently do. Go ahead and hit this guy in the face. Well, I think with Bloodlust next turn we could probably win. Let's see, 3 plus that'd be 12, plus another 6, plus another 5, that's 12 plus 11, plus this, I think we're fine to do that. It would be kind of cool if the game had like a pile-on animation right at the end, where all your guys just immediately attacked and did more damage. But I guess it's kind of pointless to bother to animate that. Hey, we're up to 2,000, and we need a priest victory, and we weren't doing good on the wild priest, so let's just go to standard. Standard priest play. Seems like Hearthstone Deck Tracker has figured it out, though. Not once this game has it asked me what deck am I playing at. It was having certainly some trouble after I spent an entire day. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Versus Magni.
I spoke too soon.
The light shall bring victory.
Maybe I made some changes and don't remember it? I don't think so. This is a Cthulhu deck. Giving Cthulhu taunt is actually useless. It's not worth it. If Cthulhu comes out and he's attacked at all, you've played Cthulhu wrong.
Made to fit.
Oops, I broke it.
What's the...
Do you hear its call?
What's the next thing?
Listen closely.
Not a lot to talk about. I'm slouching in my chair, I will admit that. Whenever a character is healed, give Cthulhu +1/+1. That'll be interesting.
Are you my master?
Caress your fear.
Rope it to the face.
I wonder how that affects my voice and anything. Did I get back to the GTX conversation? Did I finish that? What I was saying there is I'm gonna try to hold out for the second generation. We have this whole new generation of our architecture. So it's a major upgrade mostly for VR. VR is failing kind of miserably. It wouldn't surprise me if the next round of this new generation of
Cthulhu is my secret.
This way.
video cards, wouldn't surprise me a little much if they had a lot less emphasis or features added to them for VR, and they're just back to saying this can play 4K video, 8K video, 12K video even, if such things, such monitors
Maybe
existed.
No.
And thus, I'd also like to see him be able to consistently play at everything at 1080p, 60 frames per second, on top of also, I would like to see him handle...
Oops, I broke it.
Do you know the secret handshake?
I'd like to see him handle the 4K games and 2K games at reasonable frame rates. So 30 frames per second at 4K would be good, but 2K on most games would be nice, acceptable. Not that I'm moving up to 2K or 4K, even if I did get the next generation, the generation after whatever the 1080p, the 1080, not 1080p. Although it wouldn't surprise me 1 second if that was the next line, if they just go with a P series of video cards.
Do you know the secret handshake? Outsider!
Is an illusion.
Let's see. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Hopefully, that's what I want to hold out for. Hopefully I can hold out until then. Mostly, I'm doing fine on most games. Bigger issue is having hard drive space.
It was your fault.
That is certainly an issue. I want to get another SSD and improve that.
Outsider!
But actually, there's not a great way to fix that, because I already have a Samsung 980 EVO SSD, 256 gigs. So I can either spend a lot of money to go for the 512 of that model. Maybe there's a 1 terabyte of that model. Maybe there's even 1500 or 2 terabyte of that model. But that's it. Whereas otherwise I could get a much slower hard drive for 5 terabytes, a lot cheaper, and try to do that, fix that up. But beyond that one issue, there's not a lot of choices. I'd like to get an M2 to PCI Express SSD stick, because there's 2 M2 buses that you could have. I should have just played Doomcaller. So M2 sticks are the new interface that maybe will take off a lot in motherboards. My motherboard has one, and I think my motherboard has the bus to PCI Express. But right now, to get the Samsung version of that is the Samsung same EVO M2 version of it. It's just more expensive, and it just goes over the SATA 3 buses. If this makes any sense to you, you know how to build a computer. If it doesn't, then you probably don't. And the SATA 3s, to explain myself, are simply just older connections versus, well, no, not older. They're kind of newer than PCI Express, unless the PCI Express 3.0 came out before SATA 3 did. That'd be kind of a good question to ask. But they're slower. They're a little slower. Different uses. I don't think really there'd be much difference in the speed right now anyways. So I'm stuck in 2 steps with just waiting for the hardware to get better. My entire life has been practically waiting for the hardware to get better, as far as how much health does he have? 3, 5, 5. This is gonna be weird. I remember like the first computers I worked on, I thought they were doing amazing things, but really in comparison to today, they were pieces of junk. Not
Castile
worth,
shelters us.
not worth really having.
Your minions
But
will
that's
abandon you.
just the good thing about technology improving is that the world has gotten a lot more detailed, precise. A great example is, of course, like 10 years ago, could I have been recording and streaming and putting videos on YouTube? Absolutely.
Do you hear its call?
Are you
Not
my master?
a world, not a possibility in the world.
The void.
Well, if I do this, I'd kill my two guys. But if I leave it, he's potentially going to kill me. I'm gonna end my turn and hope I survive
Listen
one turn.
closely.
Even if I get Cthulhu out, even if I did get him, right now I'm still gonna lose. See, so he does 3, he would have been able to do 12 alone. And then well played to that. Alright, let's resolve this and go a little bit longer since this is gonna be my only recording potentially. Let's do the Tavern Brawl as the priest and see if we can win quickly on that. Otherwise I'll do it off screen and that'll be it. What was I playing? I was playing this one and random card for changes attack equal to its health. No. Silence, do 2 damage. I tried do 2 damage. Yeah, this is what I did. Do 2 damage and then restore 5 damage as my only 2 cards. Did not work well at all, that strategy. Easily defeated, having no minions at all to play. Now I guess the danger of having this two card thing is I would be very tempted to play it quite a lot. I'm just gonna go 50-50 here. It shouldn't take too long because this one does 3 damage to each hero, and so I can do on the first turn 6 damage to each hero, and then these 2 to heal both of them.
The shadow engulfs us.
Greetings.
The shadow engulfs us.
So he's down to 24, so am I. On the first turn, second turn. Blood of Ikor didn't work for him. Let's see.
Well played.
In the light's name. Some for you.
Job's done.
Oh man, I healed and shouldn't have. I should have played one of these and one of those. Oops.
Armor made to fit.
So he just has blood ichor and
The shadow engulfs us. The shadow engulfs us. The shadow engulfs us. Some for you. Face the light.
Job's done.
and this. He's down to 8. I'm down to 21. Hey, he knows my Hearthstone deck tracker is
Armor
flipping out like
made to
crazy
fit.
here on this one. It still needs to figure some stuff out there. It's, I believe, flipping between my Priest Wild and my Priest Standard decks, because it assumes it's a priest playing. And it only sees these two cards. And I suppose having only seen
I can't do that.
two
I can't
cards
do that.
In the light's
puts
name.
it at the disadvantage versus a standard where standard
Some
start
for
where
you.
it probably
Some
has
for
seen
you. Some
3
for
cards. I wish Hearthstone just simply labeled each deck in the log file so it could say you're playing the deck named this, and it would just be like, okay, I know what deck he's playing, instead of trying to auto detect it, which is somehow not perfect. Oh well. I don't really use the Hearthstone deck tracker for anything anyways. It doesn't give me any advantages. Even though it may help a better player, it's certainly not going to help me.
The shadow engulfs us. Some for you.
Job's done.
This is funny, I may lose here, but either way that's going to be it for this recording. Like I said, I really am running out of things to talk about. There's nothing new to say about Hearthstone. We're just kind of all chugging along, playing the Whispers of the Old Gods and the new Standard and Wild things. No big changes are going to occur at all
In the light's
for a
name.
while.
Job's done.
I'm not gonna win this. I'm not gonna win this. You beat me. I can almost guarantee you this is how I'm gonna get the quest done though. So much work to do, so much work to do. On top of that.
In the light's
See, I
name.
guess I can
Job's done.
sit here and maybe even deck him. 20 more turns. I mean, he should be getting more of the armor smiths
made to
eventually.
fit.
Then that just armors him up even more, but he may actually be so limited
Well played.
that that
The
isn't enough
shadow
to help him.
engulfs us.
Job's done.
This may very well just get down to a fatigue battle. I'm in a weird position now too. I'm sitting here quiet because I don't want to really start another conversation.
In the
But I
light's name.
apparently have enough time to start another conversation, so I might as well do
Job's
it.
done.
Like earlier today, I spent the day removing thresholds from my house because I needed them removed to give it. They were too big, too tall, too many bumps in the road, effectively. And so one of them was screwed down into probably concrete. It seems like it did.
In the
They
light's
put
name.
wood braces into the concrete to
Job's done.
so the screw was stripped, which is a common occurrence
Armor
even
made to fit.
when it's home people doing the home repair. No better, it's a common occurrence for me too, but I think it's probably a pretty common occurrence even for the most professional of professionals for screws to
In
be
the
stripped.
light's name.
And they have a tendency not to use screws anyways.
Job's done.
They will nail things down. If you're constructing a house, I don't think you put too many screws in that house. It's all nails. Well, if you're doing the wiring, you might install boxes of screws, but not really. So the screw is stripped, and I had recently, within like the last 6 months, purchased a strip out screw bit that drills into the screw and then has a second side that's threaded, and that second side is then See, he's got 48. And as long as I can keep myself alive, we may run out of cards. Should I keep him, heal him? I think I need
In the
to.
light's name.
That might be a mistake doing this. Actually, I don't think I needed to do that. I should have healed myself, and I think that would have healed him up anyways. So,
The shadow engulfs us.
so I drill out the screw with the bit, and then I flip the bit around and I put the threading in it, and then that allows me to remove the strip
Armor
screw.
made
And
to
then
fit.
it was a kind of funny occurrence because now the strip screw is stuck to the bit. And I'm like, uh-oh, how do you get it off the bit? On top of it being very hot because
The shadow
of
engulfs us.
drilling into metal, you have a tendency to get, it has a tendency to get hot.
Job's done.
And I went back to the instruction that says, yeah, just kind of bang it on a hard surface until it falls off.
Made
Just
to
kind of
fit.
wiggle it effectively. And so I did that, and it came off eventually. I was thinking, oh no, I have to buy a second tool to use the first tool. But not a terribly
The
difficult
shadow
project.
engulfs
Difficult
us.
project. The much more difficult
Job's done.
thing will be to try to find some kind of threshold
Armor
that works
made to
really
fit.
well there, because it's between tile and floor, wood floor paneling, Venetian stuff,
The shadow engulfs us.
and it can't really have much of a bump at all. I mean, a ridiculously low profile is necessary. Maybe I should just
Armor made to
glue it.
fit.
Even carpets are not working. Well, in my situation,
The shadow engulfs us.
well, not my situation. In what is necessary for the disabled family member to more easily get around. They're in a wheelchair, but they're not wheelchair
Armor
particularly
made to
bound,
fit.
so they can walk. But high fall risk whenever they do walk, so and in the middle of
The
recovery
shadow
to
engulfs
fix that.
us.
So it's weird. What was the
Job's
other
done.
story I didn't want to start since this is taking forever? I think he is gonna just
Armor made
try and
to
get up
fit.
to this. That was one thing about Human Resource Machine too, is the numbers only got up to 999 or negative 999. There were several programs you could make because the inputs were only up to like 20. So if you just knew that the system was only going to ask you certain
In the
questions,
light's name.
instead of having to make a robust program that would work for any possible number that you could throw at the machine, it was a lot easier to do it. And then some of the ways you had to program also was limited, so you couldn't really make it work as well as it should work. They would give you enough room to get 4 inputs and manipulate those 4 inputs, but if they had instead given you 5 inputs, there simply wouldn't have been enough room to do it, which is weird.
Armor made to fit.
I think if you had taken the concept, I don't know, I assume everybody now either uses something like Visual Studio or what's some of the other programming compilers you can use. I think you pretty much gonna use Visual Studio, or there's
In the
one on
lights,
Linux
Nate.
I think called Clips, or there's another one on Linux that I think you can use too, and I don't remember if it's which part of the program that was. It's
Armor made to fit.
I don't even know the name, but if they in one of those things had a much more friendly tutorial than even what the game offered, and they had certain puzzles that kind of like what you would get if you were taking a class, as far as just
The shadow
this is your
engulfs us.
task and we're going to grade you on how well you do that task, and we're going to show you the results really fast. When I was programming, a lot of times the results was certainly just the computer would lock up. You'd get into an infinite loop and it's just reboot the computer. Just reboot the computer again, reboot the computer. And each time, these are old computers, so it's not a fast boot at all. It's like, oh, I made a mistake, another 3 minutes down the toilet. Just reboot and reboot and reboot, reboot. So that's no health, right, when that happens, and hopefully it doesn't happen that much. These days I would hope that Linux and Windows 10 have better like issues with with programs not responding
Almost out of cards.
and such.
Well played.
So I have one card left, he has 2 cards left.
I'm almost out of cards.
Let's see what can happen here.
Armor
He's got almost
made to fit.
90 armor. Well, he's got 91 now, but down to 13 health.
I'm out of cards.
So I'm
Well
just gonna
played.
hold back and heal and end the turn.
I'm out of cards.
So he's trying to hit me for as hard as he can and then power up. And I take the 1 fatigue. I want to see how this plays out. So I want to do this.
In the light's name.
I want to do this.
In the light's name.
I want to do this. And I want
The
to do
shadow
this.
engulfs us.
Job's done.
And the reason I want to do this is because I want to potentially kill some of his characters, or if he trades his characters out, that's less damage he
Armor
can do,
made to fit.
theoretically.
Face the light.
Let's see, if I took a
Astonishing.
couple,
Face the light.
that might work, but I don't think it is. I don't think this is going to be as close as I thought it was going to be. Or I thought it might be. Yep, it wasn't anywhere close. So, at an hour and 5 minutes, that's the end of this recording. I'll get the rest of this done. And then we will be, what, at 2,140 gold. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to. Yeah, if I had more viewers and got more comments, it would certainly help me have more to talk about. My external inputs, my news watching is not very high, so I don't have a lot to talk about. Particularly, I'm not interested in talking about anything but video game stuff, and that doesn't happen that much. So comments would be helping. Like, share, comment, subscribe, watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me, you can click on my name Rydo, make a donation. On the right is a support button. And then down below is all my social media links where I want you to follow and friend me on all of that, and that would be helpful too. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.